Okay, so another important thing is that most of the time your visualization is not just one chart or one, even if it's a custom visualization. You have linked views. So for example, I can have a bar chart that is linked with a line chart, or a scatter plot that is linked with a bar chart, or even node links. You can have like many different views and they are linked and they have to interact together. So for example, when the user select a bar in a bar chart, I want to see the line chart for that specific bar. Or when the user over, I want to see another bar chart, the proportion for that specific bar chart, and so on. So you have these two views interacting, and you have to make sure that whenever you interact with one of them, the other one knows about this interaction. And so there is many ways to try to organize that. So for example, there is a library called CrossFilter that helps you to make like this cross filter between different views. So I have master, I filter the master and I can see the details. But you can also organize your code in an object-oriented way and creating classes if you have worked with that before. And you can create type of classes. It's not exactly class as we know in C++ and so on, but you can have the same concept of classes in JavaScript. So you can create one class for each specific view or each specific visualization. So this is one way. It's not required to do that. And the other way is a more functional way. You just create functions to a specific rendering or to render specific parts of the visualization. So you can just call these parts of code whenever you need, and that makes things easier as well. So there are many ways to do. Today I'm gonna show one way that is kind of functional way. I'm not creating objects and nothing related to that, but you feel free to implement the way you think is easier for you. So just one recommendation that I have is that try to create functions, your reaction to the events, in a more agnostic way. So whenever I click in something, it's better to have some function that is not attached to that visualization to react. So in this way, it's easy to distribute things. So think about if I have a bar chart and I click in a bar. So if this function is, for example, inside this bar chart and very attached to all the code in this bar chart, it's hard to make this function now update a line chart. But if I have this function in a higher level and I just click in the bar and I call this function and this function knows who has to be updated. So this function just call the render of whatever has to be updated. So you don't have to worry in the bar chart. So this is architecture thing. If you are not like experienced with coding, don't worry too much. This don't prevent you to create your visualization. It's just things that make easier, like some recommendations that make easier to construct your code. Okay, so let's create some linking in our visualization. Okay, so now I want to link my visualizations because right now I'm over in here and I can see the country here, but the list doesn't have any over function. And I would like that when I over here to see the country here, and whenever I over something here, I want to see also highlighting the list. So I want just two views to be connected. So I just want to fix some small thing first. So the first is that you see that our list is not sorted. So it looks like sorted until here, then start again. Then it's not like alphabetical, lexicographical sorted. So we can sort it. We can do filter data dot sort, and then we can use a D3 assessor. That's very helpful. You can do ascending. So this will compare both and return the right value. So I can sort by the lexicographical name of the country. Oh, sorry, I forgot the return here. Okay, so now it's sorted. You will see that the dots here also change a little bit because the order of the country affects the order of the dots are drawn. So that's the reason why we have a different, more or less different like disposition. Not the position are the same, but the order when we have one on top of other. So I want to make them a little bit less opaque. So I will change the opacity to 0.8. So they are a little, let's see, 7 is good. So I change the opacity of the circle so I can see better behind it. Good. So now I have my country is ordered. I have my circles ready. So let's start to interact. So what I want to do is, as I said, it's good to have this global function that takes care of the interaction. So I want to have a global function here that I will call highlight. And then I have another function that will be unhighlight. So the highlight needs to know which country to highlight, but the unhighlight doesn't care. It should only unhighlight everything. So what I want to do then is, instead of changing the style here, I want to move this to my highlight function. And then here I will call highlight. And I will pass the name of the country. So I'm calling. So this is very specific for my dot group. So I can keep it here to show the tooltip, because whenever I over in the list, I don't want to show the tooltip. So that's the reason why this part of the code is still here, while just the highlighting part, the border, goes to my highlight function. And I will do the same thing here. So I will do unhighlight. And move this thing here. Okay, same idea. So this is very specific for the tooltip that only happens when the user over this specific dot, and then when is a global highlight occurs. So that's why this stay here. So I don't want, when I highlight here, to change anything on the tooltip. Great. So but now I have to make some modifications here, because now I don't have these anymore to select, because this function doesn't know which element is calling. It just knows that there is a country, it's some name, and I want to highlight it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my dot group. Then I can do select all, and then I can select all my circles. And then for each circle, I can set the style. And how am I gonna set this style? So I want to set the stroke. But I only want to set the stroke if the country name is equal to the name. In this case, we should use black. Otherwise, undefined. So I'm doing more or less the same thing here. Let's just break here and let's see. So originally I was doing that, you see, stroke, and I was setting to black. So this is what I'm doing here. Stroke came to here and black here. And then then we had to add something, because what happens here is that I'm selecting all the circles and I am performing this comparison for each circle. And then what happens is, if the circle has the same country name that has been passed to the function, then I should return black. So this is a if this is true, it will return black, else will return undefined. That is, we'll remove any we'll leave to the CSS to decide what should be the stroke of this circle. So this is helpful because even if I don't have anything implemented here, this is already solving one problem. So let's see. So you see that I commented, so nothing is happening here, nothing is happening here. So now I don't have a code to when the mouse leaves. You see that worked. And even though I don't have a code anywhere else to remove the border, so I'm not saying that when I leave, I should remove the border. You see that I leave and the border is still there. But when I select another one, then it removes the border. You see? So this is because this function is going through all the circles and checking if the name is equal or not. And then it sets the color back. So this is already like taking care, so I don't have two circles highlighted at the same time. Great, but I want to do the unhighlight here. So I want that as soon as I leave the circle, I want it to remove the border. So let's do the same thing. So I don't need, this is what I changed. So I want to do exactly the same thing. But here, I don't have any name to compare. I don't have anything to compare. So I can replace this function by undefined. So I just remove the stroke for all the circles. Let's see. Over, as I leave, I remove the dot. Okay, so I just re-implemented the same thing from our previous step, but now I have a global function taking care of that. So it's easy for me now to just also highlight the list. I just have to do the same thing with the list. So I can just do list dot select all li, and I can do exactly the same thing. But from the list I will not change the stroke, I will change the background color. Background color, and I will return the same thing, but I will also set the color of the font. So just color, and in this case it will be white. Let's see. Okay, so there is a problem with my background color because here is a D. Okay, so you see that as I over China, here China is highlighted. So let's like Costa Rica here, or if I have like a small, like this one, so you see that it highlights on the list. But the list has the same problem that the scatter plot had before. So as I leave, it's still selected. You see, only when I select the next one, it cleared the list and select the next one here, South Africa. So what I want to do is exactly the same thing. I can just copy this code here, and instead of returning any function, I just return undefined. Let's see. Okay, you see, as I leave, we have let's like China here. So China, as I leave, it unhighlight. Okay, so now I want to over the list and get the highlight on both. So because I have a global function, again, very easy. I just have to replicate the same thing here. So I just have to say on mouse enter. Just highlight d.name. And on mouse leave, just unhighlight, and you don't have to pass anything. So now as I hover, it highlights the country and also is highlighting here on the bar chart. So you see, it's highlighting the country at the same time. Perfect. So you see that having a global function that is responsible for taking care of this highlighting process. So the list doesn't have to care and say, oh, when I highlight, I have to change the list and the bar chart. I just say highlight, and I do the same thing on the scatter plot.